morning to you. It is a rainy and icy morning in my home place of Texarkana, Texas, but it is a beautiful day for the kingdom. This is a glorious season when we're preparing ourselves and our hearts, our families, and our homes, preparing all of that for the upcoming season of Passover and unleavened bread, and then the seasons that come, the great harvest that He has ordained for us in the next year, our King. So welcome to all, one and all, from wherever you are. The greetings of Sabbath, maybe to be over you and spread over you like a blanket, like a prayer shawl or a talit that would cover you and cover your family and cover your home. May the blessings of peace, the blessings of health, the blessings of joy, the blessings of prosperity, the blessings of love pour out over you and over all that are yours and that you're in your spheres or orbits of influence. This is the week of Parsha Vayakhel. It is a Hebrew phrase from a Hebrew book. The Hebrew book that was spoken in the language of Hebrew by the creator of the universe, and then taken and used and copied and maintained in Hebrew by the Jewish people over the centuries, has a message for us today. It's a message about the kingdom that lurks in the shadows, the kingdom of heaven that is just seemingly right beyond our view, that is just out of reach, it seems, and yet it is closer to us than we think. As a matter of fact, it's in us. It's in our heart. It's in our minds. It's in our thoughts. It's in the neshama, the nishmat chaim, the breath of life that the Holy One breathed into Adam that came into every human being. Yes, we have flesh distractions. Yes, we have emotional distress. Yes, we have trauma. We have all these things that come from the natural realm that make us blind. But if we could open our eyes in the spirit, we would see that the kingdom is very, very near, very, very good. And that's the message of Vayakhel. Last week in our studies, as we remember, these are sequential stories. This is a narrative that was laced together for a strategic purpose by the creator of the universe, that as we read it, we enter into the story. We understand this is not somebody else's story from generations ago. This is the human story. This is our story. This is our families and our bloodlines' story. This is our lineage story. This is our heritage. This is our destiny. This is what we will relive over and over again. So last week in the narrative, we reached a low point. We reached the point of the golden calf, it's often called, Vayakhel in Hebrew. It is this idea that we've decided to choose for ourselves what we would value, what we would sanctify, what we would consider to be worthy of admiration, adoration, and service. And we wanted community, we wanted each other, we wanted something we could see, something we could feel, something we could touch, something that shined, that was very shiny, glowing, and somehow got a lot of attention, a symbol, a form, a structure, an organization. This is what we sought, and this is what we took, and we declared a holy day. Human beings don't have that ability. You cannot make a holy day. But Aaron and the people of the golden calf episode, they declared their own holy day, and we see it all over the world. Governments declare holy days, religions declare holy days, or political groups declare holy days. They are not. They are merely declared lies of the adversary. The Holy One has the right to determine what a holy day is and what a holy day consists of and what kind of behaviors and attitudes and approaches are appropriate on a holy day. So we've come out of the golden calf debacle, and it was ugly. We talked about it last week. If you didn't read that, didn't listen to the study, you're encouraged to go back maybe during your Sabbath day today and just kind of catch up on that. But it came out really, really ugly, and there were masses of dead, dying, putrefying flesh in our village. 3,000 people, men died. There were widows, there were orphans, there were screaming, there was wailing. Blood, and generations would be affected because not just the people who were killed, but the ones who they would have nurtured as fathers, as mothers, and taken care of and blessed as friends. Those were gone as well and damaged as well. So we've been traumatized. We in today's world also we are traumatized by events that go on around us. Even this week we see a nation rising against a nation. We see bloodshed and seemingly senseless violence taking place. This is a world we are called to live in. This is not a world we're going to be rescued out of. This is the world we're going to infuse holiness into, and that's the mission. That's the kingdom. That's touching the kingdom that's so near to us and bringing it down into the world that is so perverse and so corrupt, and yet has so much potential for goodness in it. The humanity has so much potential for good in it. Each individual human being, no matter what they have done, no matter what they're doing at this present time, no matter what nonsense they spew out of their mouth, no matter what violence they encourage or incite, each human being has within them the neshama, the nishmat haim, the breath of life of the Holy One. And there is this eternal spirit of life within there that will go beyond, far beyond what they can do in any given moment, that is evil or darkness. We are to speak to that, and we are to encourage that and bring forth the kingdom as much as we can, to the extent that it is within us. We are not to make the flesh part worse or more activated or deal with only the flesh. We are to deal with the spirit. Vayakhel. So what has happened is, in our traumatization, the nation of Israel, the Pnei Israel, has sort of become shell-shocked. PTSD, some people might call it. We don't trust people. We don't trust ourselves among people, because what happened, how the whole golden calf episode got started, if you will recall, was that the people gathered themselves together. Kahal, the Hebrew verb is used as kahal, to call together, to believe that we need to make a community. We need to make something happen in ourselves. We need to get together with other human beings, and based upon our interactions with other human beings, make something happen in the world. Well, that's kahaling in the worst possible sense. That is what happened last week with the people of Israel who came to Aaron, as he's called in the English language, and asked them to make them gods that they could go before them. So we don't trust people. I hear this all the time in the world today. I don't trust that group. I don't trust that person. I don't trust this person in that level of authority. And I understand why. It's not that I disagree that you should trust them on the natural realm. It is that we have something greater to do, a larger plan and a more important focus than it is to judge or criticize the people that are doing the bad stuff. The psalmist made it very clear. Fret not because of evildoers. Quit fretting because of evildoers. Quit fretting because of evildoers. Because if you read the rest of the psalm, you understand why. By the evildoers, by the actions of the evildoers. As a matter of fact, they will fade like the flower of the field. They will fade like grass. But his will endure, and his plan will be manifested. And his kingdom will come to the earth, to your bloodline, to your family. So it's not that you ignore and just totally blow off everything that's going on in the world. We can't. On the other hand, we must see a greater picture, get a better vision. And so that's where we are in Parsha Vayakhel. How are we going to recapture the greater vision? I call Parsha Vayakhel, which is Exodus 35, verse 1 through Exodus 38, verse 20, this section of the Torah that's set up for us. I call it, He has brought us to His banqueting table, and His banner over us is love. Last week, we didn't feel much love. We didn't feel much joy. We didn't feel much shalom. Last week, particularly in our studies in the Torah, and also as the lead up, I think, in our world to the invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation, and many other things going on in the world at this time. We felt stress, we felt anxiety, we felt a need to connect on a very banal, physical, lower level with things around us. And this week we are caught up in the swell again. We are caught up in the fact that He is in the midst of our enemies. That in the midst of our enemies, He has prepared a table for us. He has brought us to His banqueting table, and His banner over us, His flag, His symbol, His signet over us is love. Now, what happened last week was we were forgiven. At the end of the week, all the sin of the golden calf, it was forgiven. That doesn't mean there won't be consequences. He said he would, in time of visitation, on our Yom Kippurs, the seeds of the golden calf episode that are alive and welcome and well in us will be touched and will be adjusted year by year, Yom Kippur by Yom Kippur, season by season. But the greater good is he has called us to come forward back into his plan, back into his will, back to his heart, back to his face, back to his arms anyway, and his banner over us is love. Now, if you can get a little bit of that, I hope you will see. This is the week of come and build. Actually, don't just talk about how wonderful the kingdom would be. Don't just talk about how wonderful it would be for the king to dwell in our midst and to walk among us and to make everything more majestic and beautiful and holy and peaceful, full of shalom and joy. Not only talk about it, but come and build it. Come and build everything that the Holy One has survived, as he has instructed, that he has laid out for us as his strategy and his plan for man. And so I call this Parsha actualizing on earth as it is in heaven. So this is all part of the Bnei Israel Chronicles. I've been using that term for the past few weeks, and I hope you're getting familiar with it. The Bnei Israel, Bnei sons of Israel, or children of Israel, or the offspring of Israel Chronicles. These are the stories of the sons of Israel, the children of Israel, the bloodline that comes forth from Israel, and all that the sons of Israel will touch. All that will become, and I'm going to use the term engrafted, don't get angry with me about that, that will become engrafted into that bloodline by virtue of the work of the Torah and the work of Mashiach and the work of the Ruach HaKodesh, all these pulling together as a unity because they are a unity. So episode number 10 is where we are of the Bnei Israel Chronicles. It's like a TV show or a series on television that you binge watch. This is episode 10 of the Bnei Israel Chronicles. And it's called Vayakhel, which means to call together. And he called and he called together to assemble. That's really what it all starts out. Now, the collective mission begins. This is what the message of Vayakhel will be to us. The collective mission has to begin with sanctifying and setting apart for the Holy One alone, and inviting and facilitating and nurturing and aiding and abetting the download of the heavenly Kedusha invasion into certain things. In other words, we're going to say certain things in this world that we know in this world need to be set apart. We need to begin to take some space, take some time, take some people, take some environment, take some material things and dedicate them for the coming of the kingdom. That means they're not for self-use, they're not for private acquisition. We get less material in our thinking, and we begin to focus on a greater plan and the collective purpose and the greater good. So what are the things that we need to see as set apart? Begin to envision and then begin to treat as set apart. And that one of those groups says individual human beings around us. Ourselves, we are set apart. We are his set apart nation, Am Kadosh, or Goy Kadosh, a nation set apart. So we should begin to see ourselves as set apart for the Holy One's use, not for the normal things that human beings may do, not for the things that normal cultures or ethnicities that we belong to or societies that we belong to would have us value, but instead we are set apart for the Holy One. And people around us are as well. And so we begin to speak to that collective. We speak to that individual setting apart. So individual human beings whom the Holy One is called. Now in the Torah, in the portion that we're reading, there are going to be some examples of that. Of course, we've already talked about Moshe. He was set apart for a particular mission and a season and an impact that it would have upon generations. And Moshe's impact upon our generations is incredible in its mass. But if you didn't recognize, if no one recognized and cultivated that and facilitated and aided and abetted that, we wouldn't have the impact needed. So Moshe is one. Aharon, Aaron, his brother of Moshe, he's going to be the high priest, and then his sons, Nadav and Abihu, and Itamar and Eleazar, these and all their lineage is going to be individual human beings set apart unto the Holy One. We need to see them as that. And quit focusing on the other stuff that they do. That's who they really are. And now this week we'll add two more. We'll add Bezalel, the son of Uri, of the tribe of Judah, and we'll also the grandson of Hur, and we'll also add to that list Aholiab, the son of the tribe of Dan. And these two will be set apart for a particular purpose to inspire us, to lead us, to teach us how to build out of ordinary substances of earth beauty and majesty and the exact plan of the Holy One as it may be affected in life. So we have the individual human beings. The second thing we will need to learn to sanctify and set apart is, in this realm, is time. The realm of time is seen by human beings as a play area. Some we can play it. We can have our will in. That's not the way in which we are called to look at time. So we're going to see certain intervals in time are set apart that are not, profane is not to enter it. The common is not to be part of it. Work, the humanity's self-indulgence is not to be part of it. Intervals in time will be set apart to the Holy One. And he will talk to us particularly about Shabbat, the Sabbath. This is the foundation of all sanctification of time. Learning that the seventh day is to be an island unto the Holy One. It is to be a place where we go to visit with them, where we go to surrender our hearts to recalibrate our organism to where we align again with His will. This is an essential part of the larger group of sanctifying time, which we'll read about, the Moedim, the festivals, the seasons of time, the intervals of the year, the moon cycles of the year and what they mean. We're going to learn much about sanctification of time, but it starts at the essence, the root, the seed, the foundation stone is the seventh day Sabbath. So sanctifying human beings unto their mission, unto their calling, sanctifying time unto its mission and its calling, and then sanctifying material substances and living things. Now we're going to see this develop in our Parsha by virtue of the things that we use to build the tabernacle, to build the Mishkan, the dwelling place of the Creator of the universe, the scale model on earth of the heavenly courts and chambers of the Creator of the universe. The great passion plays stage upon which the passion play of creation, the beautiful story of redemption and restoration is played out on a stage for the world to see. That is what this Mishkan is. That, the scale model, a replica of the heavenly courts and places, the tent in which He comes to dwell, the chamber, the antechamber in which He visits with us, the headquarters building for the invasion of the kingdom. All these are what the Mishkan tabernacle is. And of course it is the picture of Mashiach. And those who walk in Mashiach being like Him. So we've sanctified three things already. We've learned that our parsha is going to teach us to sanctify individual human beings unto their mission, unto their calling. We'll sanctify intervals in time unto their purpose. We'll sanctify material substances and living things. We'll learn more about the living things later, but the living things, even flora and fauna, will be separated unto Him for their purposes. We won't mix them. We won't blend them. We won't decide to redesign them with GMOs. We won't do that because, you see, we are setting them apart totally to the Holy One. And there's a fourth thing, and that's physical space, the physical space in which we walk. There was certain physical space in which we are called to set apart, set aside, designate solely for the Holy One's use. Now that means that within that physical space, we commit that what will be done will be the Holy One's will, not any man's, not any denominations, not any group, not any theology, not any human cultural phenomenon, not any social justice program. We will not follow the ways of the world or any of its movements or any of its organizations or its institutions. Physical space will be set aside for one thing only: humbly doing the Holy One's will, following the Holy One's instructions, doing what's on the Holy One's heart. That is setting apart physical space. And of course, we're going to use the imagery of the Mishkan itself, the actual tabernacle with its courts and with its internal areas and with its furnishings or its stations of avodah, service. And the fact that it portrays that we are dealing with an invisible God with hidden things, but yet those things are so real to us. They are more real to us than the physical world around us, though we are fully cognizant of what's going on around us. All right, so what are this week's Great Nation challenges? If we're building this great nation, the Bnei Israel Chronicles, if we're building this holy nation, what are the challenges that we'll face this week? The first one is, it's a gut check. After the trauma we've experienced, after the suspicion that we have toward our fellow human beings, after the wondering where do we stand with God and can we ever even do this, after all those negativity factors and the trauma of life has hit us, we are going to be called upon to open our hearts again. Open our hearts again. Let me speak that directly to you in your heart. It's time to open your heart again. You say, but I may get hurt. Yes, you may. But you will also fulfill the plan of the Holy One, because this is the time for you to open your heart again. What does it mean, open your heart? It means that you will focus upon the things the Holy One has put into your heart, not upon the things that you have heard people put into your mind. Human beings are throwing things at you. The news media, the religious systems, the political systems are throwing bullet points, and they're throwing propaganda at you, and there's this and that disinformation, misinformation campaign all the time. It's affecting your brain. The education system, the science system, the medicine system, all of this is aimed at your brain. It's aimed at your fleshly brain, your fallen, broken brain, and it causes you to have all kinds of stress and anxiety and angst and anger and fear and worry and all those things. He says, no, it's time to bypass that for a while, to go deep and open your hearts again. Open your hearts to the Holy One as a bridegroom king. That's why I said at the very beginning of this discussion, he has brought us to his banqueting table, and his banner over us is love. Let go of the hardness of your hearts. Let go of the callousness of your approach. Let go of the judgmentalism of your spirit. Let go of those things. Open up your hearts again, beloved. My dear friends, life in the kingdom is all about having an open heart and walking and living out of an open heart. So open your hearts and not just your minds again. That's challenge number one. It is a challenge. We can get hurt. We can feel like we've been used. We can feel like we have been mistreated. Oh, but he's worth it. He's his glory, and he is able to heal and nurture and clear and bring good out of all things. So trust him if you don't trust anybody else. Trust him to do good. Trust him to do you good, to do your bloodline good, your family, your household, your children good. Open your hearts once again. Please open your hearts to the Holy One, the creator of the universe again. Selah. The second thing, the second great challenge of this great nation, Parsha, Vayakhel, is to learn how to focus our time and attention and energy and our resources, time, attention, energy, and resources on what the Holy One is focusing on, not what the world around us is focusing on, not what the news is focusing on. Those things will demand attention from time to time as they impact us and our family lives. But our time and our attention and our energy and our resources belong to the one our hearts adore, the one who has moved upon us, has redeemed us, has cleansed us, has forgiven us so much. And what is he focusing on? And he's usually focusing on everything in you. He's using his eyes to work through you to see what needs to be done in your sphere of influence, your orbit of impact. What can you do to make your world a better place? What can you do to build holy, sanctified time and space and things and people into this world? Can you bring about the wholeness and the kingdom of heaven? One little moment, one conversation, one phrase, one word, one facial expression, one demeanor activity at a time. So, open our hearts again. Focus our time, attention, energy, and resources on what the Holy One is focusing on and doing, not on what the world is talking about. And third, to put aside differences of opinion. about politics, about philosophies, about ideologies, about ethnicity and the moral equivalency between the ethnicities, about theology, about social justice movements, and even about some of the lighter things of Torah. Now, you know, the heavier things of Torah, the weighty things of Torah, are loving your neighbor, loving the Holy One with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and then taking care of the widow and the foreigner and the fatherless and the poor amongst you, and focusing on their needs. This is the weightier things. But we can, if we have differences of opinion about the lighter things of Torah, the theology, I'm not going to list them for you. You probably heard them talked about in the last week or so. What people are arguing about most of the time and really angry about. Put aside those differences of opinion to cooperate and collaborate, even with people that you don't really know, that you can't really trust, that you don't even like, but you know they are also called of the Holy One. And you know they are also part of His grand plan, because every human being is, for good or for evil. So put aside the opinions and the differences of opinions, and going together and cooperate and collaborate with people we do not know, trust, or even like, all with one thing in mind, or two things in mind. One, the greater good. The Holy One always focuses on the greater good and the cross-generational greater good. What will be good for generation after generation? And in connection with that, the second thing is the Holy One's grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, and for the restoration of creation to its original intended state of beauty, fruitfulness, and shalom. So here we are at Vayakhel, and I call it another little sub-name I use for it. I try to give you several of these so you can see it from different facets and angles. The Vayakhel is the tent maker's dream coming together in real time. Scattered sparks of holiness, scattered fragments of Nishmat Haim, souls, spirits that are alive in fractured, fragmented flesh. Scattered sparks joining together to make the kingdom of heaven come alive in real ways, in real people's lives, in real time. So let's sing our blessing of the Torah. Open your hearts in the deepest ways. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch atah Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikach ha'amim. V'na'atan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Natan HaTorah. Blessed is the one who is the blessing, the source of all blessing. Blessed are you, Holy One, our God, the source of all blessing forever and ever. Blessed are you, O Holy One, our God, Creator of the universe, King of the universe, King of the times and the seasons, who has set us apart from all other peoples of the earth by giving us His instructions for living, His Torah. Blessed are you, Holy One, the giver, the establisher of the Torah. Okay. Well, Parsha Vayakhel, with that prayer and that blessing, we step into it now. Parsha Vayakhel is going to introduce the divinely inspired and activated synergization factor, synergy and synergization. How one person coming together with another person, despite differences in their ethnicity, despite differences in their culture, despite differences in their theology or their philosophy or their experiential life, coming together, how something happens more than just the combination of the whole. There becomes a synergization factor, an energy, an activation, an inspiration takes place. You see, in the Holy One's great nation model, the one we are supposed to be a part of, the whole, that is the greater community of redeemed souls, is capable of so much more, of far more glorious things than merely the sum of its individual parts. So we'll talk over the next few weeks about Ruach HaKodesh, our Holy Spirit, activated catalytic conversion. activating catalytic conversion by joining together, inspiring. I long to be with you, Shaul of Tarsus said, for instance, over Timothy, that I might stir up that gift that is within you. This is the synergization factor, the activated catalytic conversion. Also, I would incorporate, and we could talk about in other days, the presence of Messiah factor. You know, Yeshua spoke clearly, and he said, wherever two or more of you are gathered together, there, it's not just you're going to have a meeting, it's there I am with you also. There's the presence of Mashiach factor that comes because two individual Nishmat Haims came together and brought their flesh and their pseudo-intellects with them, and they bonded over that process, and then Mashiach began to reveal himself in one facet or another through that synergization factor. So we have the Ruach HaKodesh activated catalytic conversion factor, the presence of Mashiach factor, and then there is the divinely ordained edification facilitating protocols that we do to stir one another up. From Psalm 133, how beautiful, behold how good and how pleasant it is when brothers dwell together, for there the Holy One has ordained the blessing. Yeah, the Romans 15:2, 1 Corinthians 14:26, Ephesians 4:29-32, 1 Timothy 1:4-8, Hebrews 10:24 and 12:1, with this great cloud of witnesses. That what is happening here? We're seeing that by coming together, by putting aside our differences and coming together and working in the grand plan, not just coming together for the sake of having a meeting or for the sake of having ecumenicalism, but coming together because of a focus of a mission that he has us on. When that happens, we see this protocols begin to come into operation, and we see, or edification, a building takes place. Now, of course, you see how this fits in, hopefully, with the Mishkan imagery. The building of the Mishkan, the building of the tabernacle. We are the tabernacle, and we do it best when we're working together. And then finally, there's the fourth aspect of this. I could go further, but I'll just go with the fourth aspect of this, which is what the writer of Proverbs, Solomon, said, iron sharpens iron. As iron sharpens iron, we are to do that with one another. So there's these divinely inspired, activated synergization factors. Do you know them? Do you understand that though you may not like everybody, though you may not agree with everybody on every point, that if you will put aside your disagreements and come together and actually work together on the kingdom project, the kingdom focus, then what you will find is you and they are both energized and synergized. And more is possible than you could have possibly imagined, because Mashiach steps in and begins to operate in and through you. Okay. Also, let me just tell you the Vayakhel story in a nutshell, because I know we will run out of time. We have a little more time, but here it is in a nutshell. A people who had been forgiven much, loved much. A people who had been forgiven much, loved much. So as I look into the camera and I look into your lives and your hearts and your homes, do you understand that you have been forgiven much? Nothing else matters right now but that. As we begin to open our hearts, again to the things and the ways of the King, to the plan and the redemption, and to his grandeur and his wonder and his splendor and his goodness, this is the first thing. Do you know you have been forgiven much? He has decided you are still someone he wants to pursue with great passion, with great energy. He wants to spread a banqueting table out for you, and his banner over you be love. So people who had been forgiven much, loved much. That's part one. Part two, and they loved the one who forgave them first. But they didn't stop there. They even loved one another. They loved the ones who induced them to engage in the calf sin. They loved the ones who profited off of the process. They began to love not just the one who forgave them much, but the ones who needed forgiveness the most. My beloved brothers and sisters, this is the kingdom very close to you. If you can just learn to love the one who forgave you most and first, and out of that love to begin to love one another, even those who deserve forgiveness the least, but who need the forgiveness the most. And the people began to go forward beyond the forgiving process, and they served instead of demanding service. My beloved, my friends, people of the kingdom ought not to demand service. They ought not to demand to be fed. They ought not to demand to be treated and donated money to their services and to their ministries and to their activities. They need to be covered and kept by other human beings. The people of the Holy One need to serve, and their hearts need to be based upon, how can I serve you? How can I help you? What can I do in your world? Not, what can you do for me? What do I deserve that you're not giving me? This was the most important part of the kingdom, to serve instead of demanding service. Are you on board? Are you willing to go on board if your heart is opened up? Then they experienced a foretaste of, and they left us a trail of breadcrumbs leading to the Messianic kingdom. They put aside their differences, and they came together, and they worked to build the tent maker's dream, the grand plan being spilled out at the stage of the redemptive drama, the beachhead and the headquarters structure of heaven. These things were built by virtue of cooperation, collaboration, and service to the Holy One. And so the final thing about the nutshell is it came on earth as it is in heaven. 4.5 months during the period that the Mishkan was being constructed. Its materials were being acquired and stored. Its artisans were rising to the top and being filled with passion and desire and vision for the project. And then the actual work began, day by day, in and out. All these things took place on earth as it is in heaven. 4.5 months, no arguing. 4.5 months, no debating, no competing for positions or jostling for those things, or for authority, or for power, or for energy, or for competing over assets on earth as it is in heaven for 4.5 months until the first day of Nisan, which is when we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to the Passover season. On earth as it is in heaven, may it happen soon, beloved, in our day. Now, I'm going to briefly mention this because Parsha Vayakhel also provides us the prototype for something amazing. Something that if you don't have a vision for, then I don't know how you overcome the traumas of the daily life. The vision is for the great latter days regathering of Bnei Israel and the nations from dispersion. Of redemption, the grand redemption, the greater redemption than took place in the days of Egypt, the second Exodus, and then much more than the second Exodus, and the grand return in the latter days when the exiles is over and the captives come back laughing and joyful from their places of captivity, and they bring with them the sheaves, they bring with them the Gentiles, the nations, and the children, the poor, those and the broken, those who are coming back to the kingdom. Well, this whole issue of coming together, back, scattered sparks coming back together in Parsha Vayakhel is a picture of what's going to happen at the latter days. When the Holy One calls, Vayakhel, when he calls, and all of us respond who are parts of his covenant, parts of his kingdom, and we come forth bringing our sheaves. Well, the passages that I would cite you to are numerous. I'm going to go through them quickly, get you a pencil and paper if you want to read them. Maybe spend some time this afternoon looking at them, but here they are. Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 10. Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 10. Isaiah 11, 10 through 16. Isaiah 11, 10 through 16. Isaiah 27, 12 and 13. Isaiah 56, verse 8. Jeremiah 25, verses 7 through 8. Jeremiah 31, verses 7 through 11. Ezekiel 11, 17. Hold on, I get my readings out here. 17 through 20. Ezekiel 20, chapter 20, verses 33 through 38. Ezekiel 34, verse 13. Ezekiel 37, verse 21. Amos 9, verses 14 through 15. Micah chapter 2, verses 12 through 13. Zechariah 8, verses 1 through 8. That Jeremiah passage was not Jeremiah 25, 7 through 8. It was 23, 7 through 8. Now, I'm just giving you those passages. I'm not going to teach from them. But I want you to understand that in the latter days, there is a great outpouring of wisdom from the Holy One. He has promised it multiple times through multiple prophets. multiple people, and this is what's going to happen if you have this vision for what he's doing. The great latter days regathering of Bnei Israel and all of its produce and all of its harvest from the nations, then you will indeed begin to feel there's something more important than what's going on today. This is the Parsha, Vayakhel is the Parsha of a great nation emerging from individual tents that have been scattered across the landscape. Engaging and emerging from those tents for a purpose. Coming back away again to Kahal, to come together to assemble the Holy One's way for the Holy One's will at the Holy One's insistence. To become a great witness throng. We are a great witness throng. We're here to tell a great love story. We have a world-changing love story to tell. We cannot get involved in the minutiae and the details of the flesh life and the pseudo-intellect life and the cultural ethnicity gender war life. We have to keep our focus on the world-changing love story that we've been given to tell. We are the great witness throng. If there is not a witness throng among us, we're not telling this great love story, then no one is. And the whole world is focusing on the darkness and the demonic aspects of things that are happening. So we are called to emerge from our tents, open our hearts, come to gather in the Holy One's purposes and for His plan, become a great witness throng that tells a world-changing love story. Are you in? Are you anxious to do that as opposed to religion, organized religion, organizational structures, and meeting schedules? Are you ready to tell the great love story of the Holy One and be His great witness throng? To be a people of shining faces, to be a people of joyful hearts, to be people bursting with our King's vision for the redemption of humanity as a species and for the restoration of all creation to its Edenic state. A people awash in the Creator's shalom, a people bursting with the Creator's goodwill toward men, a people flowing in His mercy and His compassion and His forgiveness, a people who carry with them a sense of gravitas and a sense of patience that is birthed out of wisdom and understanding and long-term perspective and grand plan awareness. And flowing, a people that's flowing in the Elohim signature blend of creativity. Elohim signature, this bears the mark of the Creator, the mark of the grand designer of the universe, the grand ecosystem manager, that kind of creativity. Not using creativity for our own purposes, to make money only, to do things that honor our organization or our structure, but indeed things that bear the Elohim signature. If you're an artist, if you're a designer of anything, if you're an architect, if you're a sculptor, if you're a painter, if you write poetry, if you write songs, do it with the Elohim signature blend. It needs to reflect the glory of God, not bring honor to its writer or its presenter. And then flowing also in Kedusha energy, the activation of the holiness, the holy energy of the Creator of the universe's courts and His throne room. The thing that makes the four living creatures bow down and cry, holy, holy, holy. The thing that makes the elders, the 24 elders, cast their crowns and worship, and that makes the cherubim and the seraphim honor Him in all that they do. The thing that activates energy, this Kedusha energy, that's what we are to flow in as opposed to natural strength or natural knowledge. This is a parsha of living stones being fitly joined together. Living stones being fitly joined together. That means some rough edges have to be knocked off. It means that we have to give up a little comfort because of the way in which we're placed. We have to give up pride, and we have to give up that sense that we get to determine how this all should be, and let the Holy One join us together. This is His work, not our work. This very special 4.5 month period, we joyfully and share and support a common vision. Quit focusing on the things that are not common vision, and let's focus on what the common vision is. Do you want the kingdom of heaven to come? That's why Yeshua, the Master's message, was the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It was not, don't like the Romans, hate the Romans. It was not hate the Herodians. It was not hate the Pharisees or the Sadducees. His mission, His vision was this: the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's right there on the tip of your fingers. It's coming. It's moving all around you. Are you going to be a part of it or not? So share and joyfully support the common vision of the kingdom coming. and working together enthusiastically and harmoniously as one new man, not as individuals trying to earn glory for our culture, our ethnicity, our gender, our age group. No, this is about one new man coming together, working together enthusiastically and harmoniously for the kingdom, for the building and bringing the kingdom. And then actually bringing an embassy, our series of embassies of the kingdom of heaven to earth, holy space that we can dedicate to him. Say, this in this place, the world will stop. The world will not come beyond this chest, will not come beyond this space. That in this space, it is only to glorify God. Now, not one syllable of murmuring. We need to divest ourselves of murmuring and complaining. We need to separate ourselves, divorce ourselves from lashon hara, negative speech. Even if it's true negative speech, if it is not essential, necessary to protect other people, we do not speak even true negative speech because we have too much of a love story to tell, too many good things to tell in place. We supplant the negative with the positive, not just positive in theory, positive for the kingdom of heaven coming. No self-centered myopia. What is in this for me? What do I get out of this? Why are they serving me? Why don't I get more of what I want? None of that. No golden calf building. No setting up organizational systems or structures or symbols to take our focus away from the plan of the Holy One. No, none of that. And then instead releasing stunning evidence of indwelling divine creativity. Do you know the creativity the Holy One could make out of you? You think you have none in you? He knows you do. He designed it into you. He wants to release the creativity and let you become the pen in his hand, the paintbrush in his hand, the sculpting tool in his hand, the architect's stylus in his hand. That's what he wants to do through you. Open your heart and let it in. Let the creativity come and flow and do it out of love. His banner over us is love. And under the shadow of the Almighty, without pride, solely for the glory, honor, and praise of the Holy One, let your creativity fly. I call upon you if you're an artist, if you're a writer, if you're a designer of clothing, if you're a designer of art buildings, if you're a decorator. Let your hands and let your mind be open to the Holy One. He will do beautiful things. Beauty is therapeutic. When it's the beauty of the Holy One, the majesty of the Holy One that's being presented by art, by story, by literature, by buildings, by decorations, by whatever. When it's the beauty of the Creator, it is healing to the soul. So if you notice, people who are surrounded by beauty tend to behave like they're surrounded by beauty. Tend to behave like the beauty has permeated them and become beautiful inside. Okay, so as the book of Exodus prepares to conclude, we have one more parsha, which is Pekudah next week. After the stunning revelation of the Holy One's 13 attributes of mercy, Moshe's face is now shining, and for the first time in his life, he is overflowing with shalom, but it is not always so with us. Our face does not always shine with the glory of our God, and our heart is not always filled with shalom. So in the fallout of the golden calf debacle, we are just scattered sparks of divine fire. We start today realizing we are just scattered sparks of divine fire. But here's the good news. The divine fire is alive. The ember has not gone out. The power of the Holy One is available. The kingdom of heaven is near. It is near to you if you'll open your heart and let his breath blow upon your heart and awaken you, and awaken the creativity, and awaken the passion, and awaken the love, and awaken the forgiveness, and the mercy, and the compassion in you, my beloved. Let it infect you. Let it affect you. Let it transform you in your mind, and in your will, in your emotions, in your speech, in your demeanor, in your behavior, in your reactions to all things going on around you. Now, come forth from your tents. The blessing of the Holy One is upon you. Come forth. Vayakhel, and he called. Do you hear the call? I want to speak the blessing of the house over you, and you can join me if you know it. It's from Psalm 119. Open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from us. Our souls cry out for your judgments at all times. How can a young man keep his way pure? By living according to your Torah. For your word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And the entrance of your word brings light and understanding to the simple. So now make our spirits come alive in order that they may praise you. And may your judgments be our help. Let's talk about Shabbat, and let's talk about the Mishkan. We are sanctifying two main things in this parsha. We will sanctify time, and then we will sanctify space. Most of our life is built around time and space. Of course, along with the space, we'll sanctify the objects that we touch, the objects that we utilize in the service of our King. But we'll talk about first time. We are all assigned in our mortal bodies. Our eternal spirits, our Nishmat Hayim, has no time limitation to it. But our physical bodies do. And the interface network, which is the soul or the nefesh, also is tied to this time limitation. We only have a certain amount of days, a certain amount of hours, a certain amount of moments, a certain amount of seconds, a certain number of heartbeats, a certain number of times that our lungs can cause our chest to expand with bringing in and releasing breath. So we are time-limited human beings. Isn't it amazing that the Holy One thinks that we can sanctify time? That we can use the time to bring His glory, His kingdom, as it were, into this world. There are certain stages of strategic time release, and we need to get in tune with those strategic extra bursts of energy. See, He's pulsing with energy. He's pulsing with holiness. And time is one of the media in which He allows us to let those pulses come out in our lives. He's given us the seventh day Sabbath. And so the first thing that the Holy One says, He tells Moshe to go down, and his face is shining, and he's now in this great, beautiful forgiveness mode. He's sticking the landing. He looks like he just got out of heaven. He looks like he just got out of the courts of the King. And he comes forth, and he opens his mouth, and the first thing he says is, the Sabbath. You must do the Sabbath. It's number one on his priority list. You must understand this. And he says, 6 days you are to work. 6 days you are to perform melacha. These are 39 different types of laborious activities that all fit within the structure of the tabernacle, but any human endeavor. So 6 days, we are to do this. We are to be people of work. We're to be hardworking people. People who don't take time off without needing to take time off because we have so much of an important mission to do. I'm not talking about little details of making sure that, we do want to make sure everything's done with excellence, but the key factor is what we're building for the kingdom. And we don't take time off of that. But on the seventh day, but it is a Shabbat Shabbaton. It is a day of indwelling and sitting around the throne room, as it were. It is a day of absorbing holy Kedusha energy from the four living creatures and the 24 elders, and most of all from the one who sits on the throne in the majesty and the glory. That is, the throne obviously being depicted by the Ark of the Covenant with the mercy seat and the angelic cherubim wings, making him a throne. Come, inhabit, rest to your place of rest, O Holy One. Well, that's the idea. Shabbat is designed to be a time of recalibration, recalculation, a readjustment. We're supposed to whatever we picked up of the world during the week, in the 6 days of working. Whatever we picked up from the media, whatever we picked up from the organizations and the institutions and the ethnicities and the religions of men, whatever we get from the science community, the medicine community, the educational environments of the institutions that go with them, whatever came from the flesh and the world and the pseudo-intellect, whatever came from present it to the Holy One and say, cut away everything that is not of you. And let him just begin to permeate and fill who we are with his holiness. That is what the Sabbath is all about. It's not just something we do to earn brownie points or somehow get some sort of a reward from the Holy One. This is how we recalibrate. This is our reporting for duty, for inspection, for recalibration. So Torah tells us that he says to do all these things. He says that, and he says a word that in English is said that anyone who does any work on the seventh day, any melachah on the seventh day, I think in English it says is to be put to death or something along those lines. It's one word in Hebrew, yamut. If you're going to engage in the things that got you polluted and corrupted on the day set aside for holiness, you'll never incorporate time into your holy factor, into the holiness factor. You'll never infuse and aid and abet the holiness factor coming to earth in this time. So what he says is not that you're to be killed by your fellows. Yamut means you have entered a realm of death. If you insist on working, if you insist on continuing the same thing that got you where you are, the stress motivator, the anger motivator, the self-righteous indignation motivator that takes place. If you insist on doing that on the seventh day when he calls you to set apart and come for a recalibration and a cleansing, a purification, a retuning, if you insist on doing that, then you've just entered the realm of death. You are no longer living like a nishmat hayim, a live living creature. You're living like a dead animal. You're walking around as a zombie, as it were, in the spiritual realm. Well, and he says in all of your mishvatekim, in all of your, we could say dwellings or places of residence. Interesting, in all the places you would do Shabbat. Shabbatekim is obviously a form of the Shabbat word. So any place, or Yashev, which is the base word for that. And so we have this issue of in your dwellings, in your places you reside, wherever it may be for generations, in your places where you do Shabbat, in these places, you are not to kindle a fire on the seventh day. Now, I'm not going to spend much time with you, but the kindling of the fire applies for the melachah, for the idea of, well, I'm going to build something, I'm going to focus on my needs, my family's needs, I'm going to focus on my wants, my desires, my earthly plans, as opposed to the things of the Holy One. And it involves also the spiritual and emotional aspect of anger, stirring up fights, arguments in the home or in the fellowship that you joined with to celebrate the Shabbat. Those are the things that involve the kindling of fire. All right. And then finally he goes into the issue of the tabernacle. You will build, make holy space. Don't you want in your life holy space? In your home should be holy. Your table where you gather with your family should be holy space. That means there's certain things that could not be allowed to enter there and pollute it. You understand what I'm saying here? Your living room. If you watch television, if you don't watch television, you have your computer. These things should be holy space that is dedicated only to God. Your bedroom, your kitchen, all your refrigerator, your car, your vehicle as you travel. These things should all be holy space, sanctified space, set apart to the Holy One, full of beauty that would attract, that would reflect the majesty and the goodness of God and the praise and the honor of Him. So I realize this is a big deal. It's not just building the temple again, although the temple will be rebuilt. This is about making holy space come into your sphere of influence in all of its capacity. Your office, if you have a cubicle, or if you have a workstation, or if you operate on the computer, making that space holy space, sanctification of space. That is our calling. Well, between the two factors, we have the holiness, sanctification of time, and we'll go further later in the Torah in the session about all the festivals, the Moedim, the reason. These are all sanctified time, pulses of energy from heaven. We want them to come to earth, and we have to open up our broadcast tower to allow that to be rebroadcast. So now with regard to sanctification of space, we control our own space. You control whether there is shalom in your space. To the extent that is within you, be at peace with all men. To the extent that is within you, be full of joy and gratitude and thanksgiving. And don't let your lashon hara, or your negativity, or your complaints, or your murmuring, or your accusations, or your scandal mongering, or your fear mongering, or your hate mongering, or your ethnicity choosing be a part of that space. Let your space be holy. Well, I see we have run out of time. There are ways in which we can need to look at each other human being as being called also to great things, and speak to the human beings on the virtue basis of their calling, not their behavior. Unless their behavior directly affects you or your family, and you must address it for safety purposes, let your speech be directed and your heart be directed toward that person's calling of creativity, calling of holiness. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Leave me a message, let you know you were here. If you have any questions, any comments, any prayer requests, any praise reports, please let us know, and we will see you next week. Good Sabbath. Amen.